Professor Levis emphasized that the study of phonology and morphology can help teachers teach speaking. By phonology, he meant the study of the sound system of a language and how the sounds work together. Sounds work differently in different languages, and so the phonology can be a very difficult aspect of language learning. By morphology, he meant the study of the smallest units of meaning in a language, including their sounds. For example, in English, the past tense ed is a morpheme. It has the meaning of past. But in order for students to actually use the past tense in their speaking, it's very useful to recognize that that ed spelling form that we put on words in writing actually has different sounds. For example, I say walked, where the sound is a T at the end, walked. I say guest, where again it sounds like a T at the end, guest. But when I say played, it sounds like a D, or studied. So that ed sound isn't really the sound. The ed is the spelling, and the sound really depends on the phonological environment in which the morpheme is placed. By phonological environment, I mean which sounds are right next to the ed morpheme. In the first two cases, the sounds that are next to the ed are both called voiceless consonants. The k in English is a voiceless consonant, and so is the s sound. The words played and studied, in contrast, end in voiced consonants. So when the voiced consonants are at the end of the verb, the morpheme has the D sound. This is just one example of a very important aspect of English language morphology that is better understood if we can look at the phonology. Professor Levis said that he learned how to teach speaking in a practicum class in graduate school. It was the practicum in language teaching. That's a class where the students do practice teaching with guidance from the professor. Professor Levis received a lot of guidance on how to teach the sounds of English, and the students love to learn. There's a lot to learn about the English sound system, and it's not something that you pick up naturally. It's a study that you need to do fairly intensively in order to really understand how sounds in English work. I asked Professor Levis to tell us why he thinks that speaking is such an important skill for English learners to develop. He said that people need to be able to talk to get things done and to maintain social relationships. These uses of oral language can be accomplished through speaking face-to-face or at a distance over the internet. Why do you think it's important to teach speaking to students?
Speaking is the basis of oral language. If you learn a foreign language and you can't speak, like when I learned Korean and I came out not being able to speak at all, it feels like a failure. And so if you ever travel and you want to use the language, you need to be able to communicate in some way orally, and that means understanding what other people are saying to you and also being able to communicate with them. And then the other part of oral communication for me is pronunciation. Pronunciation is really the kind of the face of language. It's the first thing you first notice. That even if someone speaks well, you notice whether they are speaking like you or not like you, and you make all kinds of judgments about people because of that. And so this element, well, speaking is essential for any kind of interpersonal communication. maybe you can text now and have Google translate it, but it seems a little bit clumsy in terms of communicating.